Good morning, guys, or afternoon, or evening, or whatever, or whenever you are now watching this. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to start with our reading story first. You're going to use your second packet. It's a green packet, and it's on page 199, and it should be a picture of Thomas Edison on it. So if y'all can get that out so we can go over it together. Sorry guys, my dogs are acting a little crazy. Again with them. Okay, sorry. So let's begin by looking at page 199. Okay, so you should have already read the story, but if you haven't, you might want to press pause and then read it and then come back and then we'll talk about it. Okay? All right, so page 199. The first thing that we see on this page is some illustrations. So the name or the title of the story is Timeless Thomas. So why do you think we're going to be reading this? What's the purpose? Why did the author write this? What's the purpose of reading all of this? What are we going to gather that? What information are we going to gather from reading this? So like we spoke yesterday, this is a biography. However, it is modified a little bit to where it's not actual pictures. It is illustrations of Thomas Edison and the inventions that he created. So over here on page 199, we see different we're not quite sure, some of them we don't quite know what they are, what inventions they were, but some of them we're able to recognize. Like the one on the bottom left, you can see it kind of looks like a camera maybe. And then the one on the other side, it kind of looks like maybe music comes out of there. Do y'all see the music notes? Yeah. Okay, so the ones up here, we kind of really don't know what exactly they are. But for sure we know that Thomas Edison has the light bulb in front of him. Okay, y'all ready? So let's turn to page 200. Okay. On this page, we see little young Thomas, and he is doing certain things. What are these illustrations of? So yes, as we can see, he's writing something. He is also playing with the ball to go down on a slope. He's nailing something, and then he's probing a plant. And then down below, we see beakers filled with some kind of fluid. And we can kind of, based on the different life experiences that we have, we can infer that the liquids inside of the beakers might be chemicals. And then there's bubbles coming out of there. Bubbles, a chemical or soap. One of the two, we don't know. Okay, so I'm going to read page 201. I want you to follow along. Ready? Have you ever thought about inventing something of your own? You're never too young to try. Thomas Alva Edison began experimenting when he was just a boy. That's right. It was just the beginning of his life. It was the beginning of a life dedicated to improving the world with his brilliant ideas and inventions. Okay, so on page 201, we see those text features. We see Thomas playing with some kind of liquid. Don't know what it is. And then underneath him playing with that liquid, we see that it is being heated up. Come here. No. Sorry, guys. And then we see him kind of writing some stuff down. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what inferences can we make based off of these two pages? So we can infer that Thomas Edison was a curious child. Normally, people don't, as children, they don't usually have little chemistry sets, or they're not really doing that kind of investigation or scientific experiments being that young, right? So we can infer that probably Thomas Edison was probably a curious little boy. So on page 202. I'm going to read and I want you to follow along. But Thomas couldn't do it alone. When he grew up, he gathered a large team of scientists, engineers, mechanics, and artists in Menlo Park, New Jersey. Together, they started the first research and development laboratory in the world. It became known as the Invention Factory. So why would they call it the Invention Factory? So if I had a chocolate factory, what would I make there? Chocolate, right? So the Invention Factory, it's a factory, and who's there? So possibly inventors, right? But not just inventors like I have a title, I am Miss Jimenez, inventor. No, it's different people with different types of specialities. So on page 202, we see that there are different types of people that are there. So scientists, engineers, mechanics, and artists. So all of these people worked together in order to invent different things. Come here. Come on. Sorry, guys. Okay. So yes, it was the scientists, engineers, mechanics, and artists who worked together to create inventions, right? So it's not just one specific set of people that are, it's different people working together and coming together to find a problem and then find a solution to that problem. Okay, on page 203. Later, a second lab was built in West Orange, New Jersey. It was an even bigger and busier. There were the sites of his greatest successes and most valuable failures. Valuable failures. Why do you think that they're valuable? That's interesting, huh? Edison used his failures as a necessary part of inventing. He once said, "I know several thousand things that don't work." And he could always try again. So what he's basically saying there is like, look, I know I messed up multiple times. I've messed up over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I now know what not to do. So based on what he does not know, he can now then could say, okay, well, this isn't working. Now I can move on to something different that does not involve this. That makes sense, maybe? Okay, so the second laboratory that he built, it was bigger and busier. Why do you think it was busier? So he did have his first laboratory, right? And this laboratory, it was already kind of known for a success, right? So if you went to this laboratory, like you knew something good was going to come out of there. So whenever there's a group of people and you see like, hey, that group of people, they have something good going on there. Like maybe I want to be a part of that, right? So that's kind of like what the second laboratory was. People saw that there was a lot of success in the first one, so they wanted to be part of the second one. Also, look at the background in this laboratory. It's very unusual. It's not what would come to mind if you said, hey guys, we're going to start a laboratory. I would probably picture a lot of white, a lot of steel tables, a lot of caution signs, safety signs. But look at this. This does not look anything like what I had in mind. There's down on page 202 at the very bottom, it says they had a pet bear cub. Who has a pet bear cub? I don't know who does. But we can see it's not your normal laboratory. It was probably a place where it was okay to mess up. It was okay to say, look, I don't know what's going on, but we're trying to figure it out, right? Okay, let's turn to page 204. Present day. We can now record any sound we like and save it. This was not possible before Edison. Edison's lab. Edison's tenfold phonograph was the first device to record sound and play it back. It was a major scientific breakthrough and earned him his nickname, the Wizard of Menlo Park. That's pretty impressive for a man who is partially deaf. So what does that mean to be partially deaf? So whenever you're partially deaf, it means that you are losing your sense of hearing. So you're slowly being able to process sound. So couldn't really hear, right? So, but yet he was able to invent the phonograph. Pretty interesting. So the cool thing about this is that even though you can't hear, like, you can still feel the sound. Like, if you put your head up to please don't do this. If you put your head up to like a speaker, you can feel the vibration like on your cheek or on your head of the sound that the speaker is making, right? So that's kind of like what he was doing. Also, I want to point out on page 205, do y'all see where it says Edison's tenfold phonograph? Phonograph kind of sounds like a word that you already know. What is it? If you said phone, you're probably right. So what do you do to a phone? Its main usage is to talk on the phone, right? So sound is, you are speaking to it, you are producing sound, and then sound is coming out. So it's going into your ear, right? So PHON, that means sound, okay? Okay, because we're going to continue on with this kind of trend. I want to also point out that, like, at the very top over here it says present, and then over here it says Edison's lab, right? Okay, so the thing about that, guys, is that the author is trying to do what? Two things with this way of showing you information. He's trying to compare and contrast present day, so today, with Edison's lab. Like how he used to do it back in the day, right? So that's going to also be a trend that the author uses to organize information. Page 206. Okay, present day, sorry. If Thomas Edison were alive today, he would be fascinated by the many ways we listen to recorded sounds. It all started with his phonograph. Phono, meaning sound, right? I hope you remember phone, PHON, means sound. Okay. Edison's lab. Edison constantly improved on his phonograph so it could have multiple purposes. Models were designed for homes and public arcades. Phonographs were also introduced to offices as the first dictation machines. It became possible for office workers to record spoken information, save it, and then play it back when they were ready to copy it down. Roxy, come here. Sorry, guys, they're going crazy. Okay, so again, so dictation, that was one of your vocabulary words. Dictation, the word dictation describes the act of writing down words that have been spoken. So like taking notes. It's similar. No, sorry guys. Blah, blah. Excuse me. Okay, so I want you just to look at these two pages right now. What ways that we listen to music today are shown on this page? So on page 206, what are different ways that we now listen to music? So yes, one of them could be like our phones. We listen to music through phones. There's also a little girl right here touching her CDs. So we could also be listening to music through a CD. And then at the bottom, there is a DJ, and he has the big... I just blanked out. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what it's called. Like a giant CD, kind of. And then it's comparing that, how we listen to music now, to how we used to listen to music back in the day. Okay, page 208. Need a battery? Take your pick. Today, they are made in many shapes and sizes. Page 209. Edison's lab. One of Edison's biggest success was his nickel iron storage battery. It was originally created to power an electronic car, but since the electric car didn't catch on, he found many other important uses for it. For example, Edison's battery was used to power buoys, boats and submarines, local delivery trucks, rural homes, railway cars and signals, and a miner's lamp. Okay, so why does the child in the illustration need batteries? It didn't say. So we have to look at our text features. So let's look at this little girl. What is she holding on to? Yeah, she's holding on to that little bear. So that little bear needs batteries, right? Okay. So what inferences can we make about what Thomas Edison's first nickel iron storage battery stored? What did that battery store? What did it have inside? So inside of the nickel iron storage battery, there was energy stored inside of it. So that's kind of like the same idea whenever you have, the big trucks that y'all get. Big trucks. There's usually the remote control big trucks that y'all have. So sometimes they have a big battery, right, underneath it. So sometimes you have to take out that big battery and then you have to plug it into this charger. And then you plug that charger into the outlet, right? So what is going into the battery? Electricity to make your little car work, right? So inside of the batteries is electricity. Yes, so please do not chew on a battery. Okay. Page 210, present day. When members of our government cast a vote, they use very basic voting machines. The X-ray machine is a common way to photograph the inside of our bodies. Page 210. Thomas Edison invented a vote recorder for the government. It was his very first patent. Having a patent means you legally own an invention. Over the course of his career, he was awarded 1,093 patents for his ideas. So that 1,093 patents, what information does that give us about how many inventions he had? So he probably had over 1,093 inventions, because remember, you don't get it right the first time, right? You have to do it over and over and over and over and over again, right? So he probably just thought that maybe they weren't good ideas or they didn't work, so we're not going to use them. So that's kind of where he probably had more inventions. This is Roxy, guys. Hi, Datsy. That's Roxy. Okay. And then I'm going to continue on. Edison's fluoroscope was the first example of X-ray technology. It generated bright and fast images. The basic design is still used today. So what design is still used today, guys? What was he doing with that fluoroscope? He was trying to get X-rays, right? So we still use the same idea or concept that Edison had. We still use that today. Because, when you break your bones, you gotta go get an X-ray, right? So, still use X-rays. All right, page 212. You want to read with us? Yeah? All right, 212. Present day. When we hear the word Hollywood, we think of bright lights, big movies, and glamorous celebrities. But did you know that Hollywood is not the birthplace of the movies? The movie industry was essentially started at Edison's lab. His goal was to offer an experience that does for the eye what the phonograph does for the ears. What does that mean? How does the author's use of Thomas' words to make a comparison in paragraph 20? What words does he use to compare two different things? What is he saying? So he's saying what the eye does for the phonograph does for the eye for what. Okay, so he's saying that he wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to create a machine that did the same thing that the phonograph does for the ear. So what does the phonograph do for the ear? It creates sound, right? So we could record a message or we can listen to music, right? So he wanted that same experience, but for your eyes. So what do your eyes do? They see images, right? So he wanted to create a way that we could see images, kind of like how we experience the sound, right? Okay. Page 213. So Edison created the first motion picture camera, the kinetograph. There you go, kinetograph. The technology was similar to our modern movie cameras. He also built the first movie studio and called it the Black Maria because it resembled a police patrol wagon with the same nickname. Movie lights did not exist yet, so they opened the roof and used the sunlight. As the sun moved, the studio followed it on a revolving rack. So look at the images, the illustration on page 213. Do y'all see that little house? So at the very top is where it was basically kind of like a giant sunroof. They would open up the sunroof and they would move the actual building around so the sunlight could come in. So I want you to look at down underneath. The house is on wheels. Pretty interesting. Okay, so how is the kinetograph different from the phonograph? So the kinetograph recorded motion or pictures that people could see, and the phonograph recorded the sounds that people could hear. How are they the same? The phonograph and the kinetograph. So they both recorded things, right? Okay, page 214. Today we can watch our favorite movies on a big screen, at home, or even on our phones. 215. Edison's lab. The first movies were shown on Edison's kinetoscope, which did not project images onto a screen. It was built for peephole viewing. One person watched at a time. Edison's kinetophone was the first projector to show movies with synchronized sound. The projector was connected to a phonograph. It wasn't perfect, but it was the first. So that paragraph right here, paragraph 25, what inference can we conclude about the sound that was coming out of the kinetophone? So based on the sentence, it was not perfect, but it was the first, we can infer that you probably couldn't hear very well out of it at first because it wasn't perfect, right? So it still had some things that we needed to work out, right? Paragraph 26. When people watched movies for the first time, they were amazed to see even the simplest movements like a woman dancing, a man sneezing, a boat in the water, a man posing, or a rooster walking. Page 216. When you chat with your friends on a computer, you send electronic messages across the wires and radio waves, just like the old telegraph machines did. Edison began working on a telegraph operator in his teens, like as a teenager. He was working as the operator. Do y'all remember? It was in the passage. I hope y'all remember. Today we use radio waves to transmit all types of signals, including those from mobile phones, radar, television, and radio. So radar. How do we use radar now? Like in this day and age, how do we use radar? So the weatherman, the meteorologist, they use radar to see where a storm is and how far away or how close it is from us. We could also use radar for airplanes, like the controlling tower, to see how to keep the planes from each other. That way they don't, meep. Yeah. Paragraph 28. Edison's lab. He eventually improved telegraph technology with machines that could not only send messages faster, but could also send several different messages on the same wire, and in opposite directions. Thomas Edison was amongst the first to discover radio waves in the air, although at the time he could not fully explain his discovery. So, I need to breathe, guys. I've been talking a lot. Sorry. Okay. So, the last sentence, Thomas Edison was among the first to discover radio waves in the air, although at the time he could not fully explain his discovery. What is that saying? So it is saying that Thomas Edison, he knew they were there. He was close to knowing that they were there. The technology, though, it wasn't available for that time. So the technology we have now, it wasn't. Let me repeat myself. So the technology that they had then wasn't as developed as the one that we have now. So now we can use the radio waves. Before, he kind of knew that they were there. He just didn't know how to explain it. Okay. 218. Present day. Our quality of life has certainly been improved by the extraordinary work of Thomas Edison and his colleagues at the lab. Think about this. Bedtime stories could be very different today if they were not for Edison's most popular and important inventions, the incandescent light bulb. Paragraph 32. Edison's lab. After thousands of experiments, Thomas Edison produced a light bulb that was perfect for homes and offices. It was sturdy, safe, and bright. It also burned a long time. This breakthrough ultimately changed the way we live, and it was also excellent for shadow puppets. Paragraph 33. Edison's light bulb worked as part of an elaborate light and power system large enough to power an entire city. He once told a newspaper that he could be the first person to light up a portion of New York City. It took 4 years of hard work, but he kept his word. Edison's lab, paragraph 34. Edison built his first large electric generator and powered system on Pearl Street in Manhattan. The key feature was its ability to send electricity to many different locations at once. It became the model for the future. So do y'all see this illustration down here where it says Pearl Street Station? So we still use this today, guys. So do y'all see the wires up above your house? Some of those are electric. Some of them are underground. But this is kind of like the system that we still kind of use today to get power into our homes. Okay, paragraph 35. So every time you turn on a light, think of Thomas Edison and remember everything he gave us. One of the greatest tributes to his work came on the day of his funeral in 1931. President Herbert Hoover asked the entire country to honor Edison by turning off the lights for a minute of darkness. People everywhere honored a lifelong career filled with important inventions and innovations. A career that began in the small home laboratory of a young boy with lots of ambitions and dreams. All right, guys. So what we're going to do today is you're going to need a piece of paper, and I want you to create a T-chart. I want you to put doubling and dropping. And then at the bottom, I want you to do your pie and cake. You know what I forgot, guys? Yesterday, I went to school and I forgot my theme flags. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. So you're going to do your pie and your cake pie, and your cake, and your theme flag. Okay? I want you to tell me, I want you to fill this in your theme flag. I want you just to come up with one right now. You should have one in mind that we have been using for biographies. Hint, hint. Okay? And then I want you to write a sentence with the author's purpose. Okay, so the author wrote this. I want you to fill it in. I want you to be specific, okay? And I want you to tell me, because I already kind of know what y'all gonna put. What information did he give you? And how is that important to know today? Okay, so you're gonna do your pie, your cake, your theme flag, and you're gonna do your author's purpose. Okay? All right. So pause it, do all that, then come back. Okay? All right, guys. So we are going to now talk about your spelling words. Okay. So the spelling words, we spoke about them a little bit yesterday, and we said that they had suffixes. Most of them had suffixes added to the ending of them. So, like, let's look at the word joking. What suffix is added to the end of joking? ing, right? So this is what I mean by dropping and doubling. So some words, like in joke, what ends up happening is we drop that E and it turns, and then drop the E and then we add ing. So it would be joking, right? And in the word swim, we actually doubled the ending, right? And we add ing. So we're doubling the M, the SWIMMING. Okay? So joking would go where? In doubling or dropping. So it would go in dropping. So I would write joking right here. And then the word swimming, it would go in doubling, right? Simple enough. Okay, so we're going to continue with prefixes and suffixes. There is a worksheet that I printed off for you right here. Okay, so there are 8 questions. I want you to, the instruction says, read each sentence, look at the words that is missing a prefix or a suffix. Read the prefixes or suffixes under the sentence. Underline the prefix or suffix that complete the word. So instead of just underlining, guys, can y'all please just circle it just so I can see it better? And then once you are done with this and these two, so you're probably going to like take a picture like this, snap a picture of it, and then send it to me through Class Dojo. Okay? And then the vocabulary words. These vocabulary words are the words that are on your text on page, what was it? Page 198 of yesterday's packet. Okay? Okay, so you have to do your 30 minutes of ice station today. Yes, I'm going to check today if you did your 30 minutes of ice station. And then you are going to do this writing prompt. So on a back here, okay? I'm going to read the prompt to you. It's right here for you if you need to reread it, okay? It says, in Timeless Thomas, the story we just read, you learned how our quality of life is better in many ways because of Thomas Edison's inventions. The text and the illustrations work together to share information about Edison's ideas. So this is basically saying that what we read and what we see, we put them together to better comprehend what we are reading, okay? Study the pictures, then write a letter to the illustrator. I want the illustrator's name on there. Should be fairly easy to find. Okay, write a letter to the illustrator, who is also the author, sharing how his drawings added to your understanding of Edison's inventions. Tell which illustrations were the most useful and explain what you learned from them. Don't forget to use some of the critical vocabulary words in your writing. Okay, so your critical vocabulary words, guys, are on page 198 right here. Okay, so there are 6 vocabulary words, right? I want you to use at least 3 or more. Okay? Okay, and I think that's it, guys. Yay! Okay, so what you're going to take a picture of is this. There you go. The worksheet right here for you. And then your writing back here. So in total, you should send me 3 pictures today, okay? If y'all have any questions or you're not understanding something fully, let me know. I'm going to try and get the theme flags today if I can. If they'll let me into the school. But we're also going to do a teacher parade today at 2. So if y'all want to go sit outside of your house, and we're going to get into our cars and we're going to make big old signs and we're going to come by y'all's house and say hello, because we miss y'all. We really do. If y'all have any other questions, let me know. And Everlina, thank you for the cup. I'm drinking out of it today. Hope to see y'all soon, guys. Bye.